go. I didn't put it on my YouTube. It should be showing in a moment. I hate when I make that little mistake.
They knew what we did so they could tap in the kitchen.
Yeah. All right, it's showing that it's live. All right, here we go. All right. Do you want to call it Peace at Noon War Times? This is Bible interpretation, Bible interpretation explanations, book 2, part 1. We just completed book 1. It took us a whole month. We started on August the 9th and we finished on the 9th, even though it was what, the 10th, Anu?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we started August the 9th, finished on September the 10th, but it still was 9s around because we did 2 parts of 36. So there was 3 9s on top of that. All right, plus it's the year 2025. So we had 4 9s actually. All right, so we just finna go on and make our introductions. Then we're gonna let a new get to what we gotta get to. I'm your host, Jutar Kenu Unu Nupu, and today I'm honoring the sun, Jutar, known as Jupiter or Aupata. All right, and she also sits in the 9th house in the astrological chart. All right, so that's my introduction, and I'm done.
Unmute me.
You're not muted. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Because it was showing that he was muted. True Peace, Kins and Friends. Yes, we are now on explanations for the BIA book 2. And I know this is going to even be more. This is going to be even more mind-boggling as we unravel and travel down into the abyss of the nooks and crannies, pulling out information that has been hidden, and basically how we have been under this. And now that those spells are being broken, and we will continue to move forward to do just that. True peace.
All right. True peace, all kins and friends of the universes and the sooniverses, rather, out there. I am Anut Bunu Nupu. I am a representative of the Ethiopian race in the science known as Noon. I am here to help the great messenger Afro Unu Nupu spread the message that he put forth via Nupu and Noon. And I hope that I'm doing a fantastic job, and I hope that Nupu and Noon is helping me to get to that level where it can reach the ears and the eyes of those who want to listen and to absorb Noon within their life and their mindset and their personal God as their brain. Okay, this particular book, we finished book 1, which was spectacular. I felt like we did a great job. You know, wasn't a perfect job, but it was a great job. And I hope that I did my due diligence as well as my kin Talkinu. I hope that we were able to achieve the goal of helping to raise the minds of anyone that is looking at these videos and looking to resurrect their mind from the grave of ignorance. With that being said, we shall move forward with Bible Interpretations, Book 2, written by Amanubi, Rakata, aka Nubi Ripu, aka Afro Unu Nupu. Okay, so I shall share my screen to get the party started. Let me know if y'all see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
We can see it. Okay, cool. Last time I don't think we even read the front of the book, but there's always good vital information within the title and the cover of the book so that any plagiarizers out there don't try to steal the information of Amanubi Rakata and Nupu and Noon and claim it as their own due to their ego and their spirit being via Leviathan. So we are going to give the true author his particular lotus flowers on this particular what you call it live that we're doing here today, because Afro Unu, the great messenger, needs all the lotus flowers that he needs as far as this information is concerned. Though he transitioned in 2011, May 3rd, 2011, he is still very powerful in the message that he has put forth to the planet Earth and to the Ethiopian race and to all races in general. So we shall proceed. Um, so as the title reads, Bible Interpretations and Explanations, Booklet 2, all right, published by Those Who Care, New York, New York, dedicated to liberty, justice, rightness, equality, and unity. Copyright in 1968 by Amanubi Ra Ka Ta. Amanubi Ra Ka Ta. Okay? Printed in the United States of America. So he wrote these books in the United States of America. All right. So this is the table of contents. You can see the various questions and passages that we will go through. So the first portion we're going to do today is the foreword. So the foreword doesn't have any questions. It has more or less a reading or a couple of paragraphs, 16 paragraphs to be exact, from Afro Unu, imparting vital information from him and Nupu and Noon to us to help us really understand the Bible, the conditions we face as Ethiopians in America, and as far as the world is concerned. Okay? I don't know how long this is going to be. I always say 10, 20 minutes. It end up being an hour, hour and a half. So I don't know how long it'll be. I will try to keep it under an hour because today's just mainly reading, not really answering questions. Okay, so the first part is the foreword. That starts on page 3, ends on page 12, 13. The first question is from the ending of the Old Testament to the beginning of the New Testament. Why is there a time span of 300 or 400 years? Second question, part B, is why are there 4 similar books about the same story at the beginning of the New Testament instead of 1? Then part C, since Protestantism is an offspring of Catholicism, when was Protestantism born? What is life and can it be eternal? What and where is heaven and hell? What are mercy, forgiveness, and justice? What is death and resurrection? Who were the physical father and mother of Jesus, Isa Panthera? Where was he killed? And what happened to his body? What are the etymological and original meaning of the names and titles God, Jesus, Lord, and Christ? What is the real meaning of accepting an alien religion? And finally, once again, what is Nuapu? Okay, so we actually ended with what was Nuapu in the last class. We did a really good breakdown, just touching base on Nuapu, because Nuapu, as you see, will come later on in the form of what we call Noon, because the books after Unu upgraded the name, and but it stays the same as far as the meaning and purpose of Nuwapu. Sort of like our ancestors in Kemet, which had one name had multiple meanings, or multiple meanings for one name as well. Same as Nuwapu and Noon. It means the same thing, but they also have dual meanings, triple meanings, or quadruple meanings. Okay, so let's proceed. Forward. As stated in Booklet 1, entitled Bible Interpretations and Explanations, there is an evil hypnotic spell cast upon the Ethiopian, woolly haired people by nature, everywhere by Leviathan via Caucasians in their Bible. And the adverse spell is also in the atmosphere itself, because Leviathan emanates it. It is the ghost spell of spiritual ignorance and racial indifference. And the only way the
We can't hear you.
words and right works. Right
Hold on,
now,
start over because you blinked out.
okay, where should I start over at? The
Um,
whole thing?
start from it's the ghost spell.
All right. It is the ghost spell of spiritual ignorance and racial indifference. And the only way the opium like hypnosis can be destroyed is by right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, working with nature and its atmosphere of the new cycle, the revolutionary cycle. Now coming in, because right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding produce right thinking. And right thinking causes us to follow the right way to liberty and equality through right words and right works. Right knowledge is truth, and truth is the best knowledge. Therefore, if information is the best knowledge, it is right knowledge. Part of the evil spell is negative spirit forces within the oppressed, dispatched there by Leviathan. And this means, although those negative spirit forces are within the captives, they are enemies of the captives, and thereby working against the captives by compelling the oppressed to do the very things that are against the oppressed in the rise from their serfdom. It is a very depressive position for a race of people to be in, having forces within self constantly working against self and kind. But that is the position of the oppressed. And the only way to destroy the negative forces that maintain that position is to destroy the negativism, ignorance that the negative forces live and strive on. The acceptance of right knowledge is the solution. For that leads to right thinking, and right thinking leads to right action. Ethiopians, do not just read the booklets entitled Bible Interpretations and Explanations, but also study them, because these booklets are dedicated and designed to offset and help destroy negative mind, Negro mind, and slave mind among us. Negro mentality is negative mentality, is slave mentality. Negro negative and slave mind is one, regardless of race or color, that knows no more or little more than what Caucasians have written for public reading and spoken for public hearing, or no more or little more than what Caucasians and or their helpers have taught. The results of the ghost spell are negative and slave mentality, replete with physical slaves and captives. Number 4, the moon cycle, which lasted 6,000 years, ended in February 1962. Just before the end of the ruling cycle of nature, a male person is authorized and appointed by the forces of nature to determine and disclose to the people, especially those of his kind, the hidden past, the changing present, and the ruling future. The moon cycle was the climax and final phase of the evolutionary cycle, which lasted 17,250,000 years. Therefore, since the end of the moon cycle was also the end of the evolutionary cycle, the cycle of mankind, and it is now the revolutionary cycle, which means evolutionary reverse, it was necessary for the forces of nature to select from among the oppressed a woolly-haired Ethiopian, a descendant of Ptah, and qualify, authorize, and appoint him to manifest the knowledge of and rule the beginning present cycle. Just as there are forces that can foretell the future, there are forces that can retrace the past. And Amanubi Rakata, writer of Bible interpretation and explanations, has access to all forces necessary to retrace and foretell. And this fact made these booklets possible. One authorized and appointed by the forces of nature is given connection and access to powers of the sun and the moon and powers of planet Earth, that he may take his place in the sun, meaning in universal affairs, and all of his kind who are able to learn, understand, and accept universal knowledge and facts as disclosed by nine ether will also be given the same connections and powers for realization and maintenance of liberty, justice, equality, rightness, and survival beyond Armageddon, the war of showdown between right and wrong. Right, number 6, right knowledge organizes and unifies the minds of Ethiopians individually and collectively. If knowledge is not to be confusing and thereby ineffective, it must be in sequence. Knowledge received must be in organized sequence in order to put the mind in order and unity. One purpose of these booklets, entitled Bible Interpretation and Explanations, is to help organize and put the minds of Ethiopians in unity and order enough to qualify for your own efficacious spiritual science called Nuwapu. Nuwapu and the forces and powers hereof are liberty, equality, justice, rightness, and proper survival for Ethiopians everywhere. Nuwapu and the powers that make it effective and binding are the equalizers for Ethiopians in all fields of necessity and endeavors in which other races offer contests. The liberation forces for Ethiopians are not God, Jesus, Lord Christ, nor the spirit power names of any other race. The liberation forces of Ethiopians, woolly-haired people by nature, is nine ether, whose scientific name will be disclosed in our science, Nuwapu. Nine ether is the original creative forces that made these books possible. When the writer uses the name Ethiopian, he does not mean only a woolly-haired person born in a small territory in Africa called Ethiopia today. He means a woolly-haired person born anywhere in the universe. The root of the word Ethiopian is ether, and ether is the creative power that the sun and other true stars produce and emanate. Nine ether is the celestial origin of all Ethiopians. It is the power that produced the African pygmy, the dwarf Ethiopian, the ancestral tree of all woolly-haired people. At one time, all Africa, all our motherland itself, and the nearby surrounding islands and territories were called Ethiopia, and the Atlantic Ocean was called the Ethiopian Sea. Therefore, Ethiopian is a name that gives woolly-haired people their celestial origin, terrestrial origin, and ancestral origin. Hence, Ethiopian is the best all-around name identification for mentally resurrected woolly-haired people until Nawapu, by the power of nine ether, gives us Ethiopians our new cycle name. If a person has a Negro, negative, or slave mentality, these booklets will help him or her get rid of it, provided the person not just read the booklets, but also study them and accept the facts therein inherent. Facts can be rejected, but they cannot be refuted. Those of us Ethiopians who shall survive Armageddon, the showdown between right and wrong, will accept these facts and adhere to them. Caucasians did not and will not teach others besides themselves any real knowledge about universal powers and forces which would enable others to rule themselves and rule Caucasians. Moreover, other races are not going to give woolly-haired people real universal knowledge either, because in real spiritual and universal knowledge is where real ruling power is found and exercised. Number 9, for the time being, it may be permissible for Caucasians to teach occupational knowledge, jobs and trades plus mathematics, works and subjects that no one can be deceived with by others, but not subjects like history, religion, origins, etc., because Caucasians will not and sometimes cannot give others the facts about these subjects. Caucasians know and teach certain occupational jobs and trades according to present day standards, and mathematics is in universal science, which speaks for itself. But what can Caucasians teach anyone about morals and best way of life when they are those who destroyed real knowledge, morals, and best way of life by suppressing and murdering darker peoples, lying to divide others and create ignorance, and stealing other people's lands, cultures, and natural resources? That is, other people's heritages. Caucasians never did and never will give others true spiritual and universal knowledge, because much of it they do not know themselves. And what they do know, they keep it amongst themselves, so that they may continue to rule the ignorant and impoverished. Number 10, occupational, professional, and technical knowledge we need and should have, but we Ethiopians need more than that in order to be free and equal again, and having ruling power. Occupational, vocational, professional, and technical knowledges are not sufficient to eliminate Negro negative and slave mentality. Negro or negative mentality or negative mind is one which is void of real universal knowledge. Knowledge about time and origin of universes, planets, stars, planets, satellites, origins of oceans, mountains, vegetation, time and origin of races, cultures, and what each race is supposed to represent. Negro mentality is void of its own true spiritual science, and the powers which maintain a race's spiritual science are those that create a race's culture, make its history, and direct its way of life. Therefore, if a race does not have its own true spiritual science, it is void of what is necessary to make it free and equal. In the case of Ethiopians, the Wapu is his and her true spiritual and universal science. Number 11, universal knowledge informs us about the governing codes and cycles of all existences and living beings and kinds of spirit forces, and the ones that are for or against whom. Real universal knowledge must answer the knowledge questions: when, where, what, who, how, why, and nature of, that is, whom a thing is for or against. Amanubi Rakata, the writer of the booklets entitled Bible Interpretations and Explanations, is qualified by the forces of nature to receive and disclose universal knowledge, unveil the past, emphasize the present, and blueprint the future. What Amanubi Rakata presents is meant to destroy the barriers between woolly-haired people and their spiritual science and heritage in general. Universal forces cannot beneficially and effectively work for us and with us as long as so many minds are among us are so negative. This is important. This is why I just have to stop real quick. This is why the book, The 144,000, is being written right now by Tarnoon. I gotta highlight that real quick. Okay? And I'm gonna repeat it. Universal forces cannot beneficially and effectively work for us with us as long as so many minds among us are so negative, because negative mind attracts negative forces, and those negative forces destroy us and cause us to destroy ourselves. Then we need positive mentality to offset the negative. Then we will have the brain power necessary to identify ourselves with universal forces, and they will help us to liberty and equality and justice. So we need a sufficient amount of minds to carry this out. Okay? Number 12, when the Caucasian meets someone who does not believe in God, that is ghost, he calls that person an atheist, because there are two kinds of spirit, ghost and ether. Therefore, if a person is not of ghost, that is God, he or she must be of ether. Hence, he or she is called atheist by Caucasians. Atheist and etherists have the same original or etymological meaning, not God or not of God. Because if one was originally created by ether instead of ghost, that person by nature is not God and not of God. A person originally created by ether can and most likely will become of God and created by God mentally during the cycle of God, the moon cycle. The beginning letter of ether was A instead of E in ancient times. Amanubi Rakata is able to distinguish between that which is for Ethiopians and that which is against him and her. Ghost God, the spirit of Caucasians, represents death for Ethiopians and is thereby against Ethiopians. Nine Ether, the spirit of Ethiopians, represents life. And of course, life and death are opposites, just as Ethiopians and Caucasians are opposites. Moreover, death is an enemy of life, just as the Caucasian is an enemy of the Ethiopian. Number 13, the purpose of anything and everything written in these booklets is to help destroy Negro, negative, and slave mentality so that woolly haired people everywhere may have and exercise free mind and equal mind and thereby enjoy freedom and equality. Because if a person has free mind, he will do free things. And if a person has equal mind, he will do equal things. Booklets entitled Bible Interpretations and Explanations are designed to open the way to a spiritual and mental revolution by right knowledge, because there can be no change in racial status for Black people as a whole without first having change in mental powers and spiritual forces. The same old spirit forces and the same old minds will perpetuate the same old system, although ways and means of maintaining the old system may change, it will be the same old system still as long as the same old minds and the same old spirits prevail, because the same old system is the nature of them. Number 14, change in mental status by right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding brings change in spiritual status, because right knowledge destroys ignorance in the mind. Then the spirit forces of ignorance that maintain ignorance have nothing to subsist on, and they die, dissipate, or become sealed in the earth. When the mind receives right knowledge and accepts it, the mind defends itself by fighting against the forces of ignorance, its enemy. And when the right side of the mind defeats the weaker side, the person becomes free and equal as sufficient effort is made. The results of cruel suppression of the mind and the accumulation of gross ignorance are the state of miserable conditions where the slave and slave master, or captive and captor, pray to the same God. Since the slave master is an enemy of the slave, if the slave prays to the same God as the master, he is praying to the God that enabled the slave master to enslave the captive, and that God is the enemy of the slave or the captive, just as the slave master is. The one God doctrine that the slave master indoctrinated the slave with is false and a trick to keep the slave from recognizing any other spiritual power but that of the slave master. There are many gods, but only one supreme being or almighty. And that being is infinite, omnipotent nature who has innumerable parts, powers, and parts. The one supreme being is every person, every place, and everything, finite and infinite, visible and invisible. Number 15, the powers and forces of Nuwapu are liberation and salvation for woolly-haired people everywhere. Liberation for Ethiopians is mental and physical separation from adverse forces, and salvation for Ethiopians is keeping adverse forces away from woolly-haired people after they have been liberated. Therefore, salvation comes after liberation and is the maintenance and perpetuation of liberty, justice, equality, and rightness. Like Booklet 1, this booklet helps to open the prison gate that has the minds of Ethiopians locked in. And as the gate or mental confinement opens, ignorance will flee and right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding will become the keeper of the Ethiopian minds. Right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding are Nuwapu, and Nuwapu is the spiritual science of all woolly-haired people throughout the universes. The booklets called the Bible Interpretations or Explanations are not the science Nuwapu itself, but the diligent reading and diligent study and profound understanding of these booklets will open the mind, tear down barriers, and qualify the mind for universal science called Nuwapu. Number 16, the reader will understand these books better if he or she remembers Leviathan is the sun god, earth god, and moon god for mankind. All straight-haired people, Leviathan can manifest itself as the sun god at one time, the earth god at another time, and the moon god at still another time. Or it can manifest itself as a combination of two or all three at the same time. The group called Adam 6,000 years ago was an incarnation of the earth god known as Geb, Dagon, Jesus, Baal, etc. Moreover, Leviathan is God at one time and the devil at another time, or both at the same time. Of course, this means that Leviathan is very powerful and very deceptive. In fact, Leviathan is the forces of trickery, deception, and hypocrisy. Leviathan is the spirit forces of the Bible. Leviathan is six ether, that is, spirit fire that produces ghost. If the reader understands this paragraph, he or she can understand the Bible and the booklets called the Bible Interpretations and Explanations. In this booklet, there may be repetition, but it is needed for clarity and emphasis. So though that's all the 16 paragraphs right there. So right now we're gonna jump in to our sometimes rogue, sometimes on point, bald-headed Noonie Boo, bald-headed digital Noonie Boo, known as Chat GPT. Okay, so it's gonna attempt to break down each paragraph, and we're gonna read along with it so that we can just get a small oversight of what's taking place. Okay, so like I said, it's just reading. That was just mainly just understanding the books that we're about to read, and mainly Afro Unu imparting that information about the dangers of the Caucasian race and the slave mentality that we hold. And you saw me stop at that paragraph about Afro Unu letting us know that we need the minds to be resurrected in order for the cycle to change over and for those to survive Armageddon. We can't just have a couple of people. We need, a large amount of people to understand Nuwapu or Noon, right? As AKA Noon. Okay, so let's go. This passage from Bible Interpretation and Explanations by Amanubi Rakata sets out the framework where the ghost spell cast by Leviathan represents ignorance, hypnotic deception, and false religion imposed on woolly-haired Ethiopian people. Let me break it down clearly for you. Ghost spell, defined as hypnotic atmosphere of ignorance, racial indifference, and spiritual confusion, said to be maintained by Leviathan, a symbol of six ether, spirit, fire, trickery, and deception, works internally and externally within the oppressed and through negative spirit forces and in the atmosphere itself. Its effect keeps Ethiopians trapped in Negro slave mentality dependent on the writings and teachings of others, mainly Caucasians. I like to say, you remember when I was reading about the 6 West cataclysm, and we were speaking about the cosmic radiation that came off the sun that had to change the atmosphere within the planet. You just have to go back to those videos and watch those videos over again. Yeah, true peace. It cut off? Oh, okay. Oh, Tar said it cut off, Nebu. Yeah, unmuted. Yeah, I still can't hear you yet. Yeah. Your thing is, you got unmuted. Oh, Tar gotta unmute your mic? Oh, so I guess he said he coming back in soon, so we can wait for him to get back in. But I think he said he's trying to get back in now.
Whole thing went off, so I don't know if y'all still.
We still on. I don't know if we still on YouTube though. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't think y'all recording. So let me see. Oh yeah. I hear y'all talking. Hold on.
Yeah, we still on there. I still see us live on YouTube.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, give it a second, y'all. Tar's having some technical difficulties. Man, we 40 minutes in already. What is going on? That's crazy. I'm thinking it's gonna be a quick one. Like, yeah, we're gonna read through this. It's looking like we're going to an hour. But we'll talk to the people while we here. So while we wait till Tar gets situated and things like that. This information that you all are seeing and reading, it is vital for our race to understand who we are, where we come from, how did we get here, and to know the information and origins of other races, because other races can be very deceptive as far as the information that they're giving to us. That's why Afro let us know that the Caucasian will never give us information that's true information about who we are. And I mean, look at what's going on today. They don't respect us as the original people from on this planet at all. As a matter of fact, at every turn, when we do something miraculous, as far as some sort of invention, they always try to steal it or they try to eliminate that particular individual. I saw the guy that was making gas out of plastic. You know, that's a very powerful one. He's running scared. You got Chicken Butso over there in Africa, building cars and things like that. They demonized the young king over there. What's his name again? Traore, Ibrahim Traore. So every step of the way, you know, we've been demonized because we don't have the power, or we don't possess the power of Nuwapu slash Noon. Had we possessed the power of Nuwapu slash Noon, and we're talking about millions of Christians and also Muslims alone in this country, we would have already did what we were supposed to do to liberate ourselves, and we would be in a much better position financially. We wouldn't be suffering the way we are right now financially had we had our liberation science in place. I mean, look at what's going on. We just saw 310, not 10, 300,000 black women lose their job under Trump. I don't agree with working for the system, but if that's your livelihood at this particular point in time, I don't agree with, you know, with the sentiment of people losing their jobs or their livelihood because of it. But these particular actions must take place in order for us to really understand the enemy that we're facing. If it doesn't open up your eyes to the enemies that we're facing, then we have a major problem. We got a bigger problem. And eventually they're going to show their colors. I mean, they're already showing their colors. They're already showing who they are. You understand what I'm saying? You see who Donald Trump is. You see who Joe Biden is. It don't matter which president is in there. Obama's supposedly black. He's actually mixed, but for this purposes of this conversation, people say he's black, but he's a black man. Tell me what Obama has done since he got out of office for black people. As a matter of fact, tell me what he's done when he was in office for black people. He's done nothing for black people before office. He's done nothing for black people while in office. And he's done nothing for black people after he's been in office. But he could go on a TV screen and chastise black men about who they voting for. You understand what I'm saying? We got Donald Trump. Donald Trump ain't do nothing for black people neither. We are still in the same miserable conditions in America and in our lives that we've been in for the last, 500 years. You understand? It's just that the times have changed. That's all that is. He still can't get in. Maybe he might have to start a new live. But yeah, back to what I was saying. Yeah, so we have to really understand and see the environment, the people, and the leadership that we're under. Like I said, Donald Trump is not gonna do anything for black folk. Only black folk can do stuff for black folk, for us Ethiopian people. You understand? And the only way, oh, hold on, Tar's calling again. Yeah, true peace. You can't get back in. Okay. All right. So Tar said we're gonna start another live. So he's gonna send another link. Who is this? Esoteric life form. I am rising out of that ghost spell and mental slavery. I was adopted and raised in a Christian household. I had an awakening in 2019 and chose this year to remember. Okay, that's great, esoteric life form. Welcome to the live. Um, I appreciate you showing up. And we are dedicated in helping others such as yourself from lifting that spell or veil from their minds, so all right, you sent another message. Every day is confirmation of this correct information received through Noon. Yeah, absolutely. This is what we're here for. If you have any questions about the science or the information, send your question in the chat, and we'll try our best to answer the questions at hand. And if it can't be answered at that particular point in time, we will research it and come back to you and make sure that we answer it. My challenge to you, though, esoteric life form, is to try to invite someone else as well, you know, some other people to the platform, and allow them to receive nine knowledge as well. Because the greatest gift that you can give someone is knowledge, or right knowledge. You understand? And that's the greatest gift that has been given to us by Afro Unu, who happens to be the great messenger of this science. So I would challenge you to give this great gift to someone else as well. Allow them to receive nine knowledge as well. And I challenge anybody also that is also on this particular platform to do the same thing, so that our, you know, viewership and the following can grow. We don't want it to grow for financial purposes. We want it to grow for mental and spiritual purposes. Okay? So thank you for tapping in. I think Tar will start another live. So we're gonna sign out of this one, okay? All right. True peace, everybody. See y'all in the next live.